Who permits matter? We usually ask how matter was created in the distant past, but there is a more immediate, forensic question. What active, continuous system allows matter to exist, interact, and persist right now, from one microsecond to the next? We understand the standard jobs of the fundamental forces. Gravity gathers mass together across vast distances. The strong force acts like an intense glue, binding atomic nuclei tightly shut, and electromagnetism governs the everyday relationships between those charged particles. But then there is the weak interaction. The weak force feels different because it changes identity. Unlike gravity or electromagnetism, which simply push or pull existing objects, the weak force alters the basic nature of the components themselves. It allows an internal piece, like a down quark inside a neutron, to flip and become an up quark, completely transforming the entire surrounding structure. To understand why this functional anomaly exists, we have to look beneath the isolated forces. We need to examine the hidden architecture, where electromagnetism and the weak force operate as a single unified system. Matter's existence is not a passive given, it is a strictly governed process. In this interpretation, electroweak symmetry is the permission architecture. In standard physics, electroweak theory demonstrates that at extreme high energies, electromagnetism and the weak force are mathematically unified. They operate as a single gauge structure, defined as SU2 left cross U1 hypercharge. In this extreme early universe environment, the low-energy rules we rely on do not apply. The distinct mass-bearing identities of individual particles were not yet committed. The precise turning point occurs when the Higgs field settles into a non-zero vacuum expectation value, an underlying energy state that permeates space. This exact moment breaks the perfect symmetry of the system. Translated into our geometric interpretation, Higgs commitment is the route-locking event. This singular physical break forces a transition. The universe moves from a state of uncommitted, fluid potential into a highly structured reality, permanently establishing the strict rules for how any particle is allowed to occupy the vacuum. The immediate consequence is the system bifurcates. The first branch remains uninterrupted. The massless photon operates freely as an infinite long-range interaction. On the second branch, the W and Z bosons acquire mass, severely restricting the weak interaction into a localized short-range force. Acquiring this mass requires an ongoing physical toll. Mass is the invoice for persistence after symmetry has committed. Once those identities are locked and the invoice is issued, electromagnetism is the operating protocol. It actively oversees the stable relations in our universe, governing charge, light, atomic bonding, and the chemistry that builds our world. Mass is the continuous cost of existing in reality, and electromagnetism provides the stable, everyday rules for operating once that cost is paid. Because of this strict dual architecture of operating rules and mass invoices, matter is not simply permitted once. Within this system, the weak force serves a precise function. The weak force is the exit clause. It acts as the system's rerouting authority. When a particle's identity becomes entirely unstable and it can no longer afford the heavy invoice of its own persistence, the weak force steps in as the authorized channel for transformation. The weak force is where unstable matter is allowed to stop being itself. Every physical structure is subjected to this rigorous verification. It is continuously audited by closure, commitment, relation, and rerouting. To be absolutely clear, this framework is not a replacement for electroweak theory, a geometric question beneath it. The reality we experience is an active, second-by-second calculation by the vacuum. It is constantly evaluating whether matter can maintain its stable relationship, or if it must inevitably be rerouted. If you want the written foundations behind this series, the books, papers, and playlists are linked below. The videos are the gateway. The books and papers are the foundation layer.